Welcome back, everybody.
Good afternoon, Richland College. You're listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on this show are my own, unless otherwise stated. My views,
Our views.
talking about, and do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's a show you've all been waiting for. I tried to say that while stifling a sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, so, crazy day, folks. We just got out of a philosophy club meeting, and I'm not exaggerating. We had 50-something people in there.
Yeesh.
50, I want to say 51, 52.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Shout out the teacher who let her class come here. You know her name, right? The teacher?
Yeah, see that ruins it. Now people think.
Hey, she deserves credit. Come on, give her.
She does,
some.
Professor Thiessen. She's amazing.
Is that how it's
Awesome.
pronounced? She said it's Tyson. Yeah, no, I know it's Tyson. It's Tyson.
Is it pronounced Tyson?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Professor Thiessen. No, but she's great. And yeah, her and I share a classroom, so we're constantly talking to each other. Why are you squealing? See, last time Braden was like taking up most of the shot, and now he's like this tiny little floating head. There he is.
Floating forehead.
All right, guys. So today's topic was a great one. It's whether or not we need religion in the formation of ethics. I butchered that articulation. So somebody re-articulate it for me.
Or the way it was sent in the email was, is religion essential to the formation of ethics? So it's pretty close.
Yeah. Okay. Not bad. I'll say this too, real quick, guys. Let's get right into intros. I've got a lot of plugs for the end here. Especially, I'll say this. You know, we some of us, I should say, my honors philosophy class, hosted the keynote speaker at the honors conference today. Rick Halperin, who's the director of the Human Rights Studies program over SMU, came right from there to the philosophy club meeting, and then right from there to here, and then after this radio show, we have the first installment in the philosophy and film series. The Philosophy Club presents the Philosophy and Film series, featuring philosophy and films with philosophers and films. Thank you very much. It's we'll be showing I Heart Huckabees from 4:30 to 7 in Wichita Hall Room 115. If you're hearing this, get on it. There will be soda. It might not be cold. Whether or not we get pizza, we might have to decide in this room right this second. Do you guys want to get pizza?
I'll get pizza.
We have to order it right now.
Little Caesars.
Yeah, Little Caesars has hot and ready's.
Little Caesars, an ancient Greek man. Socrates, an ancient Greek man. You see the correlation?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Good to have you back, Jeter.
I'm not Jeter anymore.
How'd that speeding ticket turn out?
Oh, the speeding ticket, it was way too expensive. It actually that sucked.
Oh, that stinks. Well, you should obey the laws. Anyways, no, you shouldn't. I never do. Case in point, I sped to school today.
How dare you?
Never obey
That's
the
immoral,
law.
man. That's immoral.
It's illegal.
So
But is it
That's
unethical?
So
Unethical?
It's unethical.
And so yeah, I'll save the rest of the plugs till after. But yeah, let's do introductions here. We'll start in the far corner, like we are wont to do.
Okay, my name is, I am legitimately the Google search engine. I don't need to explain myself. You're welcome for everything I've done for you. Goodbye.
He was certainly searching for answers today.
Don't disrespect me. My name is the Google search
He's
engine.
been searching for meaning, too.
I don't search for meaning. I know the meaning. You search for meaning.
Who is chewing into the microphone right now?
Me. I'm totally eating the microphone.
Oh, you're eating the mic. Perfect.
Yes. My name is Aisha.
Oh my. Me? Okay, hold on. I'm Mr. Nobody. And I'm male. Don't assume my gender. Moving on.
I am Zeus, the Greek god of thunder.
Where's your beard at, man?
Oh, I took it
He
off.
shaved it off.
It got hot in here.
Took it off. He taped it to the back of his head.
Nah, it just pops off.
It just pops
Put it in
off.
a drawer.
It's like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
What is it? A fuzzy wuzzy? What were those things? Woolly bully? You know what I'm talking about, Caitlin?
Mr. Scoggins is like, what the
It's an old child's game. Okay, don't worry about it. Yeah, and so I'm Professor Manzi, the faculty sponsor of the Philosophy Club. We got the co-host here, Kaylin Scoggins. Some heat in the studio. Say hi, Caleb.
Hi, Kaylin.
Professor Scoggins in the government department. Happy to have him here. Yeah, so we got about 40 minutes till we have to leave. Till we have to peace out. Get it? Because it was peace studies, which was the focus of the honors conference.
Oh my
I
god,
don't
totally
get
get
it.
it.
Can you
Nobody
explain it to
believes in
me?
you.
I can't explain anything to anybody. That's why I'm here.
Great philosophy professor.
Should we take a call? Okay. Well, okay. So any conclusions here? I gotta say, for as many people as there were at that meeting, because I mean, 51 at a club meeting, probably the biggest turnout of any club ever on campus. I would say. Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
Pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, I'm just saying there is something students can fill out for Club Advisor of the Year. It'd be nice to go alongside my Teacher of the Year. Anyways.
Already filled out.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. And I want you to know that I missed the deadline on that leadership nomination I was going to give you, but I'll find a way to make it work. That's not true. That's not true. I actually nominated Haya. Sorry. What's
I did too.
Jeez. See, you can't insult this guy Uche. He's too nice. Like
I
he'll
just throw
just.
it away, man.
It's true. He's like Teflon.
I
You
thought
like
his name was
water.
Google search engine.
Oh yeah, that's
my
right.
name is Google search engine, man.
Literally
Don't ever
the-
disrespect.
Gucci. Yeah.
I'm-
Google. All right. That should have gotten more.
Can you say
Never
Gucci
disrespect him
on the
again.
radio?
No, I shouldn't.
What's what do you guys think then? I was in the middle of saying the following. The conversation was really it flowed. A lot of really interesting perspectives and opinions. And look, when you talk about something like religion, it gets really personal typically.
Yeah.
And we brought it to that personal place today without anybody getting upset or insulted or offended. Everybody was very open-minded. It was a beautiful thing. Thanks for listening, folks. What do you guys think? So let's get to the topic at hand then. Let's feast like we will on cheap pizza later. What do you make of religion with regards to its necessity or maybe it's not a necessity? And because here's the key term here: formation, ethical formation. Does religion help you as sort of like a conveyor belt kind of thing come to learn about right and wrong? Do you think animals have an understanding of right and wrong? So when I tell my dog not to beg and he begs and I say, no, that's bad. I mean, is it the same thing?
Yeah, I feel like if you think about ethics, there were some moral boundaries before religion, proper religion came into rule. And why I think it is essential to the formation of ethics is because before there were more morals that we believed in, or at least everybody knew but didn't follow. And then when religion came about, it was these set principles that you had to follow, these moral behavior principles that you had to follow to some certain end, depending on your religion. So I feel as if certain ethics are their formation is essential because of religion.
It's more your ethics. That's so stupid. Can we start from the beginning?
Boo.
No, I think Haya, I think you're making some good points, and you did a good job of summarizing, I think, a big part of the discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for the requack.
Boo.
Guys, I'm trying to establish traditions here.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Okay.
But
Duck soup.
What was that?
You Marxist.
There's a joke to be made between Braden saying he's Zeus. Zeus is the god of lightning. Lightning's related to thunder. We are thunder ducks. Are we saying all the materials are there? So
it's
let me make a
Braden's
joke.
responsibility. He
It's
came
a
up with
conspiracy
it.
theory. Zeus is real and he's a duck.
Zeus is Daffy Duck? What?
Daffy Duck.
Mobius T-Duck.
Mobius T. Duck.
Exactly.
Mobius.
M-
That's
MTD.
our mascot's name, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe Mobius and Zeus are the same thing.
Okay,
Moby Zeus. Oh my
God.
let's keep going. All right, let's not get distracted.
Yeah.
Let's keep
Okay.
talking about Mobius.
So the point. Well, let's just pick up where we left off. The point we were making is this idea to discern between, again, mere moral actions and behaviors and an ethical understanding of your moral behavior or of your moral position or of your morality. And so this aspect of, are religions necessary for the establishment of ethics,
I think so.
be it in a society or be it within an individual as a member of a greater society? It seems like most people want to say yes, but most people want to also preserve this sense of, again, choice and autonomy, where it's like, who is the final arbiter here of right and wrong relative to my concrete existence? It seems like it should be up to me ultimately. And if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. But, to what extent are we emphasizing the ought, the force? And I guess that last point was, religion emphasizes it to the greatest possible extreme.
Mm-hmm. Something that kind of came up in the club. It was, I don't remember who said it or if it was even said at all, but an idea of ethics being something universal and ethics being something that's maybe innate in human beings. And I disagree with that statement. I think that ethics is something that's taught. It's something that you hear and accept. It's something that...
Look, it might be innate, it might be in Uche, it might be in Jeffrey. I don't know if it's in everybody.
Yeah, I would think, honestly, human
Come on,
beings...
Keelan.
No.
Human beings...
I'm not dignifying that.
Human beings are animals before all else. Human beings... And an animal wants to preserve itself. The most efficient or the most, I guess, ethical thing for us to do, the most thing that's in our nature would be to not be altruistic, to care about us and maybe our family members at the most, but not to selflessly,
Definitely not our students.
Yeah, so, the moral of not stealing or the ethics of not stealing, that is not something that's natural. That's not something that is in our nature. It's something that has been introduced to us, like taming an animal in a sort of way. I don't think that it's natural at least for right now, I'm going to say that ethics are not universal and ethics are not innate.
I'm going to go steal your car now, Uche.
Go ahead, man. You can have the keys.
I think you make a good point because it's not as though you have to teach a child to behave selfishly or teach a child to behave, in like a bully type fashion. They're already inclined to do what's in their best interest, even if they only have a very rudimentary, elementary understanding thereof. Whereas something that is, again, good, especially if you define good in the traditional Judeo-Christian understanding of selfless and self-sacrificial and for the greater good and, the whole martyr thing, it seems like that is definitely, as you say, Uche, counterintuitive. And yet... We equate it, generally speaking, the West will like to equate it with the highest part of what we can possibly be as humans. Something like our divine spark that allows us to transcend our human, animal, quote unquote, base needs.
Well, I was going to say you also on the other side though you don't have to teach a child to feel compassion, or at least you shouldn't in most cases. They'll naturally be able to empathize with other human beings, as well.
So I'm wondering, even if we grant that not all humans, left to themselves will behave ethically, however you want to define that, would you affirm or deny that all humans innately have the capacity for ethics or ethical behavior?
Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
Well, I'd say there's definitely a logical side to ethics. Where that it helps to continue the human right, but more importantly, it helps. We benefit from existing in an ethical society, in that other people will behave ethically toward us, and so it is logical to submit to ethical guidelines and rules, because then we will also be granted the benefits of that behavior.
Right. I suppose. Let me try to rephrase this more directly. I suppose.
I thought his name was Nate. Now it's Grant. Just trying to keep up.
Thanks, Jeff. This is more directly. Even if ethical behavior is not natural or innate or in Grant or whoever,
In Jeff.
what would y'all say about, is the capacity for ethics or ethical behavior innate and universal or not?
I think so. Maybe an exception would be a person who maybe have mental illness. But I think just the same way that people can practice through a math equation that they've learned, people can practice an ethical situation that that's kind of been pushed onto them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How do you practice ethics then?
You're taught?
So I don't know if this is something ethical. Is ethics would this be an ethical thing to not steal from other people? Would that be ethical?
Yeah.
It's only ethical if you can tell me why you shouldn't. Otherwise, it's just a moral opinion.
See, because there's natural laws to life, liberty, and property, right? Every human has the right to life, to liberty and property, to acquire property, right, and to own them.
Hit her,
So
Kaylin,
if you
hit her.
take an animal and his property is his territory, right, he has the right to defend his property, right? And he has the right. The only time somebody's allowed to take his property is if he wins the fight against said animal, right? So taking somebody's property is essentially taking away their right.
I'm actually really surprised that this is the during the entire club meeting, we never had anyone bring up natural rights or
Yeah.
natural law.
I was
either
thinking
at
of
all.
bringing it up because we were discussing this in my government class, but then it completely slipped my mind.
Because there's a really common kind of grounding outside of or independent of religion for kind of ethical reasoning is this idea of natural rights or maybe even natural law. So, yeah, I'm curious to kind of pursue this a little bit further
Yeah.
in that direction. I'm just surprised it didn't get brought up in the meeting, but that's why we had the radio show, right?
Precisely.
So natural rights are the life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Is that
Life, liberty, and property. Well, yeah, in
Allegedly.
pursuit of
Life,
happiness.
liberty,
Depending on whether you follow Locke or Jefferson.
Yeah.
And what is
Yeah,
what is
literally, that's what my professor is saying.
what's meant
Yeah,
by
I'm
natural
government too.
law? What's meant by natural law?
What is meant by natural law?
That's a really good
Natu-
question.
It comes from the state of nature, right? The human beings are naturally born in the state of nature, which they are given the right to life, what they are to live, the right to be free of any physical and mental bounds, and property to acquire what they need and what they feel is theirs. What they what will make them happy. I'm being really vague here.
What makes those rights natural?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And remember, we're talking about religion as well, and religion's role in possibly forming ethics necessarily.
I feel like our sentiency makes it natural. See, when I'm not saying that animals therefore don't have the right to life, liberty, and property. They do as well. But it is our mental capabilities that allow this. And a plant cannot physically have the right to life, liberty, and property. It may have the right to life if we think it does, but it can't think of these rights. It can't acknowledge that, okay, I'm alive. It can't acknowledge that I'm free. And it can't acknowledge that this is mine.
So is it the acknowledgement to life or the desire to life that is
No, but then
entitling you?
essentially you could say that a plant has a desire to live as well.
Well, I don't know if the plant does have a desire. I think
But
it may
it's a
just
need
be
to
automatic.
Need to live.
Yeah.
So you have
But like an animal will know when it's in bounds. An animal understands that it's not free, even if it's never faced freedom. It'll know that this is not what it should be, and an animal will know that it's alive. An animal will know that this is mine. This property, this territory is mine. And I feel like that's what makes it natural, because all beings that are alive understand these values.
So it being natural is rooted in something about the nature of the thing under consideration then.
Yep, I feel that's my opinion.
So what then of the source of our nature? I think this is where religion, the question of religion, might come into play here more directly. It's again, this idea of a natural law implies that we have a universal shared nature, human nature. Of course, the predominant religion in the West, Judeo-Christian values, we'll just call it, suggest that our human nature has been corrupted by us. So it's about restoring us to our previous nature as a divine, a super nature, a supernatural source intended when he designed us. So if you take that perspective seriously enough, then the sort of the moral imperatives, commandments and what have you, that come about is a direct result of, considering this is what we take to be real, this is what we take to be our origin, and we believe that we have such a thing as human nature, it only makes logical, rational sense to abide by certain rules insofar as we can make them consistent with sacred scripture to the best of our ability at any given point in history. Yeah, please.
No, you go ask a question because I'm still thinking about the answer.
Well, so Jeff, are you implying then that the natural law is kind of inherently, I guess, theological in its orientation?
Yeah. See, that's the question. Is it necessarily? Because it seems as though, again, a lot of people.
I
Okay.
love this.
I'm
track.
sorry. I just got a text from Ashigal about tomorrow's student organization meeting, but it said pizza because we're having pizza that meeting too, and I thought it was from one of the officers. I was like, what? At any rate, yeah. So I think that's the question. I mean, you can acknowledge. Well, I think most people are willing to acknowledge the possibility that there is such a thing as human nature without it necessarily having a divine source. But it seemed like some people were considering the prospect of, well, religion need not be tied to what is natural so much as it's tied to what is best for us. Because sometimes what comes naturally to us isn't always what we ought to do, what we should do.
I think you're equivocating on natural there.
Can we shut off mic 5?
Doing
Well,
that
no,
in the
pull that out,
previous
because
one.
I am. But pull that out, pull out the equivocations. Maybe we can talk about them.
What
I'll
is
leave it as an
equivocation?
exercise for the students.
Well,
What's
exactly.
What's an equivocation?
I'm using a term really loose. We'll just say.
Oh, okay.
I'm applying it to relatively different contexts and scenarios, but I'm applying it means the same thing in each scenario.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about how was I equivocating here? Because I think this could be meaty. Because again, the distinctions are important that I'm intentionally overlooking.
The distinctions you're blurring are
Exactly.
important.
Well, to make a bigger point.
Is it ethical to intentionally blur distinctions for the sake of making a bigger point?
I'm about to tell you I don't love you and jump in the toy box.
I think we should have another radio show, which is just them making snide remarks about each other.
No, that's what this is.
Y'all are just along for the ride.
I'll put it to you like this, guys.
It's a monster.
We have an in-studio audience, as we often
A
do,
live
and today's no
studio
different.
So,
They just dropped something. I think they just knocked Jack unconscious in the back.
is ethics is just a system of morals that people act on? Is that all?
I think that's a fair way to put it, and that's how Chris put it in the club meeting. I think that's accurate. But before we lose the thread here, this idea of
Yeah.
what's natural.
Okay, so to if I can rephrase what you just said, you'd mentioned that people were kind of getting at whether religion is necessarily based in something natural or based in just what's good for us, because what comes to us naturally may not be good for us. You know? And I suspect, I'm not going to claim there necessarily is, but I suspect there's an equivocation in the usage of that term naturally in those two statements.
Well, naturally.
Especially when naturally there is, yes. Another equivocation.
I'm leaving.
So I would think
Let's
that
take an
I would think that there-
equivocation
Please
from this
stop.
conversation.
That sounds great, but I'm not going to let you. So, thank you.
Terrible.
So it would seem that at least there are two distinct ways that the word nature and natural are being used in just that brief phrase, and really throughout the discussion. So one, like back when Haya was talking about natural rights or natural law, we eventually hit upon this idea that, okay, what do we mean by saying those rights are natural? We mean rooted in or based on the nature of a thing, of what a thing is. That's not necessarily the same way we're using the term when we say, oh, do what comes naturally to you. Those are two different ways of using the term. What comes naturally to you may or may not have anything to do with your nature or what you actually are. Now, what is good for you would seem to be based on the kind of thing that you are. And Uche was getting at this earlier. Because of the kinds of things we are, animals, it's good for us to be able to eat and drink and things like that.
It's necessary, yeah.
Right, and it's necessary. It's good for us as the kinds of things that we are based on our nature. Even if, in some cases, what comes naturally in this second sense may actually be detrimental to the kind of thing that we are.
Might work against your rational nature. So, and so I think this is where ethics comes into play. And thank you for explaining that. I think that's where ethics comes into play, is this idea of, is there something about what we are by nature that suggests there's a certain way for us to live, necessarily?
Is there natural goodness for
Yeah.
us, then, in that first sense, of goodness based just on the kind of thing that we are?
So like a plant, for example, it cannot thrive without being in a certain environment that supplies its nutrients and what have you. It needs to be able to grab sunlight to engage in photosynthesis. Human beings, we are of a rational nature, not merely a vegetative or even beyond merely a sensuous nature. a sentient nature. We are rational, and so it might seem as though those imperatives, the morals of a society, of an individual, if they are to be quote unquote right, if you want to put it in this way, we mean by that in accordance with or of a piece with the kind of thing we are, which is not merely an animal, not merely a plant, a nutrient, a nutritious. I'm so nutritious. You get what I'm trying to say here.
Right, and it seems more importantly that in that situation, that what is
Frankenberries.
good, right? What is good for the kind of nature that we are is not necessarily whatever we just happen to feel like or are inclined to, or are naturally inclined to in the second sense.
Yeah.
There may be a gap there which is hidden by the fact that we're using the same word in two different senses.
So that's what you were getting on about. Okay. But
He's going to ask a totally unrelated question.
Which is fine.
Yeah, totally.
how are your days?
So how you guys doing?
But something
Toppings on the pizza?
I feel like very.
We have to order the pizza, by the way.
We'll get the pizza. We could like pick it up from.
Yeah, the hot and ready, as the name implies, it's hot and ready to go.
But
Welcome to Pizza Radio.
something that I was thinking
My true
during
passion.
the to establish something, there has to be one person to create it, and he has to convince the other people that this is the right way, that this is the.
Or often one God.
Yeah. This is the what you should do. This is the what you ought to do, and for the person that creates it, maybe they did not need religion to like form it themselves. But it seems like for people to adopt something, this is gonna sound obvious, but for people to adopt something, there has to be some type of authoritative figure to give it to them as a sort of ultimatum. Where if you disagree with this, then you will be punished gravely, and if you agree with this, you will be rewarded greatly. But
Interesting.
and it kind of touched into something that someone said in the meeting. I don't know what her name is, but she asked, "Is it ethical if you're only doing it out of fear?"
John Stallings.
That wasn't him at all.
That was a girl.
No, that's actually a good point. That I
That's a
kind of
good
want
point,
to see if I can bring what you just said, Uche, back into relation with Haya's earlier discussion about natural rights and natural law, and then also how religion ties into ethics. I'm wondering if maybe we could actually kind of invert the normal way of thinking about the questions. The question's been phrased almost as though religion may or may not be a foundation for ethics in some way. I'm wondering if religion itself, or religion as such, might be a particular type or species of, not even a medium, a particular instance of ethics or a dictate of natural law. It's interesting to me that in the medieval tradition, religion was described as a virtue, as in, or an ethical thing. Religion was described as a virtue or even a requirement of natural law.
Yeah, you're right. Like, and often in the old books, they would often refer to a distrustful man or someone who wasn't worth their time to be called a man of no faith. Because if one did not follow a faith, you were worse than someone who followed a faith that wasn't Christianity.
Right, and religion was being used in a very general term, not some specific religious denomination or religious tradition, but religion as such, which was described. Again, we can debate the definition, although one was never really, to my knowledge, offered in the club meeting for religion. But religion was described as being just kind of rendering what is due to whatever is most ultimate, which would make it to be a kind of itself a instance of ethics, if that's what you think religion is.
Yeah, so in other words, what is due to what is ultimate is another way of saying you owe it to your creator to behave a certain way, because your creator gave you an opportunity to behave in any way. And so it becomes almost every dimension of life becomes saturated with this idea of piety or piousness, or if you're living a moral life, it's a form of worshiping, paying homage, saying thank you to the creator.
It would seem this also gets back to your earlier point, Jeff, about ethics being kind of rooted in claims about what is, or a certain kind of ontology.
Yeah.
Because then, even by that general definition, if whatever is most ultimate is, let's say, on a nihilist view, nothing, then what you owe to that or what is due to it is, well, nothing. And so your religious obligation as a function of your ethics is rooted in, claims about reality, even on that general definition.
Yeah, and I think when that came up in the club meeting, it seemed like certain students were pushing this idea of, well, at least this is what I was anticipating they were taking it. What about having just faith in yourself? So it's not as though you're nihilist in the sense that nothing is deserving of value, but it's more along the lines of, I am staying true. What do I owe myself? Am I enough to be the source of my own dictates? Am I enough to be the source, the arbiter of justice in my world? And how would that work, considering you live again not in a vacuum?
Yeah.
This ain't no Dyson living.
Stop doing that. Stop.
Well, so what do y'all think about maybe kind of tweaking the way that we had been talking about religion and ethics in that way?
Can you reiterate it one more time, Manzi?
Yep.
Or
Oh no, he said Manzi. No, Kalen. Oh Jesus! Oh, geez.
Are you okay?
I'm batting 1,000. Okay. You know what? Let's because we're coming down to 14 minutes, and we do have to leave. We have a hard out here at 4 because we have to set up for the movie, and what have you. And if somebody wants to get pizzas, now might be a good time to leave and go get them.
Get out of here, Jay.
Oh,
Right.
I thought Haya was going.
I don't have a car. Why would I go?
I can go.
Hi, you don't have a car? Let him borrow your car, Uche. Joking.
I don't even know how to
Okay,
drive.
well, let me respond to you, Uche. I'm sorry. Before you run off.
Nah, man, you lost your.
Jeez.
Go ahead.
Try
man, you
to get him to
lost
put
it.
extra mozzarella.
Extra mozzarella, Uche.
No, Uche, I think the deal is this, ultimately. When it comes down to a question of why you do the things you do, your ethical orientation, it's impossible as a human being to ever escape the reach of ethics. And when I say the reach of ethics, I don't merely mean, again, morality. Because, of course, you have to consider how to behave in any given situation around certain types of people, regardless of where you learn those beliefs. But you can't escape the reach of having to justify your actions. And merely saying, well, it's because that's what I was told or taught, it just doesn't cut the mustard.
Mm-hmm.
And so religion is so vital, it seems to me at least, for the formation of ethics traditionally. But, I wonder if there's a danger in sort of getting stuck in a religion of too much passivity, which is to say that at any certain point you can feel as though, well, no, I'm good. I have my reasons for doing what I do. But do you know the reasons behind those reasons?
Mm.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think is human. I mean, you want to talk about oughts, rather than saying how you ought to live in particular, what you should and should not do. The biggest ought of them all might be consider the source of your behavior. If it's religious, if it's psychologically motivated, whatever the case may be. I'm thinking 3 to 4. What do you think?
3 to 4 pizzas? Yeah, I was thinking 4.
No. Faculty sponsor the year nominations.
3 to 4.
I went 3 to 4. No, I'm joking.
With extra mozzarella.
That's right. It's gonna be super cheesy.
Par for the course for you.
I was thinking it while you were talking, and I feel like I just lost it.
So few students do that, so thank you.
And
That was a joke.
I was thinking, for to know what something ought to do, you should first know what it is.
Yes,
and the
totally.
reason that it was created. But a person without a religion would say that there is no reason that we were created.
Sure.
And that we can decide the reason that we were created.
Yes.
But I think that what religion gives to a lot of people is it gives us the reason as much as the ought. And people really need the reason. And that is something that is very attractive to people.
Especially in that narrative form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they can easily identify with the characters in the story or whatever.
Exactly.
But I don't even know what's going with that.
No,
but
that's a great point.
that's
So
all I
would there
wanted
be
to
no
say.
difference then between religion and the Platonic noble lie?
Say that again?
Yeah. Ugh. That's a whole can of worms.
Oh, sorry. Ignore me.
Oh no, that's a great question. I love that. So the noble lie from Plato is this idea that it's okay to lie. So we'll use a silly contemporary example in a very watered down fashion. You're telling your kids that there's such a thing as Santa Claus in order to get them to behave. You lie and say there's such a thing as a jolly person that slides down your chimney. It's a little weird. But you know that there's no such thing, and yet you do that because you're trying to ingrain within your children at a young age good habits that will serve them well moving forward. So it's a noble lie. You lie for their own sake. Like when Haya says something and I say good point. You're trying to encourage. That's a joke. That's a joke.
But even those kids that do believe in Santa Claus when they're young, they grow up and they realize, oh well, it was just all, fake. And I think that's how it is with some people that also believe in a religion. Like they believe that their religion or whatever that they've learned or whatever religion they followed growing up is the truth. And then when they grow up, they have more questions or they question their religion more.
It's a loss of innocence.
But the habits still stay with them in a lot of those cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly a deterrent. I'd you going.
Oh, I don't know. I want to argue with Uche about because he's still pushing it.
Google.
He's been
Yeah, mine's
Google.
Google,
Google's been pushing this idea that
Google advertising.
Google pushes everything.
Google is the
He's got a lot of drive. G drive. Thank you.
But well, there's this idea that you have to have religion in order to have ethics, right? But then I was thinking about the different kinds of religion, how in some cases they're not they can't be mutually compatible. Like you can't have both the Christian God and the Greek gods be true. You can't have the one true God and also all these other gods at the same time. But both of these religions, they both lead to ethical systems. Yet ultimately, only one of them can be true, and the other has to be.
Or none of them could be true.
Only a maximum of one of them can be true, because they're completely non-compatible. So then, what you see is that at least in one of these societies, humans have to have created the ethics essentially from themselves, because they have this false idea of God that they have created, that they're basing their ethical systems on. So it seems like at least in one of the societies, the ethics have to be made not based off of a higher power, at least.
But it's still religion in both cases.
True, but if you can do it with God, without God, I don't see why you can't do it without religion.
I think I see what you're saying is that you can find a value for ways of life promoted by certain religions without necessarily feeling like you have to subscribe, go all into a religion. So you understand why, you shouldn't lie, but you don't have to be Christian to adopt that theory. Is that right? Do I have you right?
What I'm saying is, like both the Greeks and the Christians would typically say it's wrong to murder someone, right?
So they are compatible then?
Well, no, their gods aren't compatible. Their ethical systems are somewhat, but they both came to this conclusion, though. But at least one of them did not come to this conclusion because God told them so, right? Because at least one of them is worshiping essentially a false religion, right?
So you can agree that two people can agree a proposition is true without agreeing on why they believe it's true.
Yeah, but well, it's not just that. It's that if only one of these is potentially could be coming from God, then humans have to be able to come up with it themselves as well to have the other one.
Yeah. So
and the other one.
Whichever other religion, whichever religion's not true, or both, if neither of them's true.
So the point would be that
fame is the new religion.
One of them, the one that wasn't connected to God, they still were able to come up with these ethics without the divine intervention.
Yes.
So you're saying that people, so you're using this as a case that people can come up with the ethics without the religion attached to it.
Yes.
Okay.
But is either one of those any more justified than the other?
More effective, even. I mean, maybe religion is beneficial for the most part because you can argue it's effective in getting people to obey their oughts, whether they want to or not. If you can agree that,
I think that's the function of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even if you don't agree with the religion, you agree with the fact that people should behave a certain way, and if religion's promoting that, then all the better.
It's kind of like having some superstitions. They're mostly deterrents for us from committing behaviors that could be injurious or harmful to ourselves. Like, they tell you not to open an umbrella indoors. Why? Because you might poke somebody's eye out.
Okay.
My mom used to tell me don't snap you know, when you have scissors, you sometimes like snap it back and forth. My mom used to tell me, "Don't do that. That's bad luck." I'm like, "Why would?"
Bad luck?
Yeah, it's mostly
Bad
an
luck
Indian
to
thing.
shatter a mirror.
But
So-
yeah, apparently it's because you know, you might cut your finger or something. The shattering mirror is because
Living in a world of windows
the
and mirrors.
shards are dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's ethical to trick people into being ethical?
It's mostly just like it's kind of
What
like
what else are
a
we doing
game.
here?
I'd say I don't want to say religion is a game. I wouldn't want to say these superstitions are a game, but they essentially is a game for people.
Religions are nothing but superstitious games. You heard it here first.
So
Hiya, Vice President of the SGA, representative of the student body originally.
So I guess
Oh,
the
president of the
President,
SGA.
wow,
Yeah.
Oh,
congratulations.
jeez.
Hard
Congrats,
job.
Hiya. Nice.
the real question then is, how do we win at religion?
How do you win
Where
at
is the
religion?
heart?
The only winning
Yes.
move is not to play.
I'm in
To not know the game. That's how you
So
win.
happy they should go in the air.
All right, y'all. Well, we got about 5 minutes left here, roughly. Let's start the why not. We got a lot of plugs, so let's do some shout outs here real quick. Whatever happened to top Brazilian
Brazilian
jiu-jitsu?
salsa.
Whatever happened to that?
I got lazy. I stopped going. But it was really good. I want to go back, but I'm too lazy to actually go back.
Instead, he went to Whataburger 15
Brazilian
times
top
last
team.
week.
Yeah, shout out to Whataburger, the greatest food place. That's legitimately the best place you can go and put something and chew in your mouth
What-
on Earth.
Where's that place that sells?
It's plastic.
It's not
plastic.
What'd
Are
you
we
say?
still talking about religion?
No, where's that place that smells?
Whataburger's my religion.
Where's the place that sells nacho fries for $1?
Nacho
Nacho
Nacho fries for
I
$1.
want to try.
I think it's
some.
Taco Bell.
I really
I don't know what
want
a
some.
nacho fry even would
Me
be.
sure because you live at
I really
Whataburger.
want
Whataburger's
some.
great.
I want
But yeah, shout out to Whataburger. That's my shout out. Let's pass it down.
The Monterey
Shout
Melt
outs.
was my favorite burger at Whataburger when I still ate meat.
Oh,
You still have that
Are
from
you a
Monterey
vegetarian now,
They-
Professor
they
Manzi?
do.
Pescatarian. I still eat fish.
Oh my god, that's awesome. I was a
Thank you.
pescatarian for like half a year. And then I was like,
Oh.
never mind.
Never been a pescatarian or vegetarian.
It was awesome. I
Give your
actually
shout
really
out.
liked
Let's
it.
give you a shout out.
She's shouting out pescatarianism.
Yeah.
Ew, what the heck?
Represent.
Fish
Okay,
are friends.
let's start our shout outs now.
Yeah, I shouted out Whataburger. Go
Come
ahead.
on, before
And what about anything you're participating in tomorrow, possibly? You or
Shout out
Oh, yeah.
the ASA Suicide Prevention
Thank you.
Convention that's going on. I can actually give the details in a second. But ASA is going to, African Student Association, is going to be holding a suicide prevention talk with with many of the clubs from Richland campus coming to basically denounce the idea that suicide would be for any people who are suicidal, to denounce the notion of that may be right, or that may be the only way out of things.
I think we got to work on that speech, but okay.
I thought the ASA was the Asian Student Association.
that's,
Is it both?
No, it's not.
I don't know,
No.
but yeah, it's February
ASA
28th.
something
That's a
It's
good point, Braden.
Tomorrow,
I'll show up to the
it
Asian
starts.
Student Association.
Okay, so it starts tomorrow at 5 p.m. in
Okay.
Sabine Hall, 118.
Oh, it's in Sabine. I didn't realize
Uh-huh.
that. Okay.
Sabine 118,
That sucks. I wouldn't
5 p.m. Suicide Prevention / Taste of Africa.
Yeah. So also plug that. You're going to be able to eat delicious delicacies that are of the native cuisine of Africa.
Student government will
Mm.
also be
Sadly won't be
presenting.
here.
Can I
That's
plug
how
in something
we
as well?
Skip school.
Yeah, plug away.
Uh,
We're doing plugs.
Next week, student government is having our spring conference for the
Ooh.
Texas Junior Community College.
Is there a
student
theme to that conference?
Yeah, we have the magical world of leadership. Miss Kelly came up with it, and it's basically
It's awesome.
everything Harry Potter. So
Oh.
you're going to be sorted into your houses at the beginning of the set.
Never
Oh,
seen
that's
Harry
cool.
Potter.
I didn't know that.
You're gonna have little badges from
Ooh.
each house, and you'll be awarded points, but depending on how professional you are, how well you follow the Roberts rules, how clean you are, and how much you clean up after yourself.
How
What time
clean
is
you
that?
are.
Yeah, like you know how you clean after lunch, you clean up your place.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Oh, this is
Ooh,
this
what
is
is
a
this?
lunch thing.
This is gonna be March 3rd from 8 o'clock on Saturday to maybe 1:30, I think. But you have to be a part of student government to take part. But you can also be
Wichita
a
115.
non-active member. So
Ah,
just
cool. You'll get reimbursed.
sign up for student government, and I'll see if you can maybe register.
And
Sounds
isn't
silly.
Harry Potter himself delivering the keynote address?
No, you're not.
If it happened tomorrow, I would.
Yes, I am. I am delivering the keynote address.
I know, but you're not Harry Potter.
Wow, I just realized Professor Manzi looks like Harry Potter.
Thank you.
No, he does not. What?
Yes, he does. Are you
He
kidding
looks
me?
like a Ron Weasley who's
Okay.
trying to imitate
Oh
Harry
yes,
Potter.
actually.
Am I? I don't know Harry Potter. I'll be honest with you. I don't know the character. That sounds like it was insulting.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I love
Obviously.
It was.
It was, wasn't it, Brayden?
He's my idol. No, I'm kidding.
Braden thinks
No one
anything
wants
is
to be
insulting,
wrong.
so let's just not talk about that.
Okay. Any other plugs
No,
from
you should plug in
Zagu?
something.
That's dead air. Brayden, anything you want to say? Any shout outs?
I'm Zeus, and I want
Shout out Mount Olympus.
yes, I want to shout out to Greek mythology, the one true religion
Oh gosh.
that all must obey.
I had a student that argued out as much one time.
I remember, wait. I remember this story that there's a Roman general who actually waged war against Poseidon and decided to take his entire army to the ocean shore and stab the ocean.
Mm. Stab the ocean. That sounds like some deep, I don't know, hipster band or like some poor art house movie. Stab the ocean. Here, we'll go to you next, Caleb.
I just want to complain that Whataburger took away the A1 Thick and Hearty burger. Like I just can't believe that they got rid of that.
Was that good?
It was really good. I mean, the mushroom and Swiss is pretty good too, but it's no Thick and Hearty burger. Anyway,
Just a little mushroom.
shout out to the continuing series of government workshops being held by Patrick Moore over in the Learning Center in Medina 216. The next one is scheduled for March 27th. It's a Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
From 11:30 a.m. to 12:20 p.m. There was one just this morning, actually. That was the most recent one. And there's another one coming up March 27th. Register online if you can. If you need the registration link or can't find it, just, I don't know, come track me down, send me an email, bug Jeff, and he'll put you in touch with me, or leave a comment on YouTube or whatever. But the workshop's been going really well, but they do have limited capacity, so make sure and register.
Yeah, no, that's and I throw my support behind that as well. Okay, so a few shout outs here. So Uche touched upon the Taste of Africa thing, suicide prevention. Again, it's similar to maybe not similar, but when we celebrated Love Day on Valentine's Day with the Intercultural Women's Society. They sponsored an event and they invited some clubs. The African Student Association is doing the same thing as well, and so it's a good cause. We'll be talking about or approaching the topic of suicide and suicide prevention and alleviating the stigma of suicide, and it's linked to potentially mental illness from the perspectives of each club. And so we'll be taking a philosophical approach. I want to say John and or Uche are delivering that presentation. Sadly, I will not be at that presentation because I will be one room over. It's the first meeting of the Honors Student Organization of the year. Again, I should mention this, or I should elaborate on this rather. Earlier today was the Honors Student Organization Conference, and it was on rights and peace talk. And Dr. Rick Halperin delivered the keynote address. I will be continuing the theme of peace talk tomorrow. I will be delivering a brief public lecture from sometime between 5 and 6 p.m. I'm not sure where they have me scheduled. Called Each Peace in Peace Building, Simone de Beauvoir and the Prioritizing Force of Personal Freedom. So it'll be existentialism meets peace talk. That should be fun. The other thing I want to throw out there as well is on Wednesday, again tomorrow, I'll be delivering a public lecture of my own as the inaugural, for the semester at least, the kickoff contribution to the Contemporary Issues in Philosophy and Religion lecture series. I'm presenting in all of my pomposity a paper titled "The Surd That Is Individuality."
The turd?
It might end up being a turd. We'll see how it goes. The Surd That Is Individuality. Hegel, Heidegger, and the ontological groundlessness of transcendental subjectivity. Once I figure out what that means, I'll be excited to talk about it tomorrow. And that'll be happening at 12:30 in the library in Lago Vista Gallery, where we typically have the arts collaboration, the philosophy department. That middle floor there, it's going to be fun. I love that venue. I love giving public lectures in that venue. So 12:30 to 1:30/2, depending on the Q&A. So please come out to that. On Saturday, as we said, I'll be giving the keynote address to the Regional Texas Junior College Student Government Association Conference, hosted here at Richland. The title of my talk is called Living in a World of Windows and Mirrors. Essentially, it gets at millennial leadership and the emphasis of compassion and free expression. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
It's gonna be this week.
It's gonna be this Saturday. Yes. Right after the spaghetti lunch, so I'll be nice and full.
It's not spaghetti.
It's not spaghetti this time?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a taco bar.
Oh, okay, even better. Vegan meat, I assume, will be in.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to
I'm not sure about tofu, but they will be.
Sure.
Taco fu.
Taco food,
Oh.
nice. That was a good one.
There will be vegetables.
There will be blood. And then on Monday morning, I'm leading a Learning Connections workshop through the Learning Center. So the Learning Center, if you don't know these Learning Connections workshops, they happen every week. There's several of them every week. It's sponsored through the Learning Center, specifically Melinda Franklin, who's fantastic over there. Everybody in the Learning Center over there is very supportive of philosophy and this whole thing. Melinda was an early member of the Philosophy Club when we first got it started here. I will be speaking on Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism with regards to the roles we play and how to integrate the various roles we play in different people's lives in order to establish a cohesive self who's better prepared to meet the rigors of academia. Perhaps the last person in the world who should be giving a talk like that. But nonetheless, there's a cap of, I want to say, 11 or 12. So register now if you haven't already. It might already be capped. I'm not sure. But that'll be Monday. I want to say, I said morning. I want to say it's 12:30. So Monday, 12:30. Look for it. Look for the roles that we play. If you go online there, and you'll see the various workshops you can register for. Anything else? I think that'll do it. That's all I can remember. Oh yeah, and then of course tonight, right? 25 minutes from now, we have the film PHILM. Shout out the film series I Heart Huckabees is the first installment. If you aren't aware of it, it's a notoriously philosophical juggernaut of a movie, insofar as it integrates seamlessly a variety of philosophical perspectives, very intentionally, into an otherwise compelling comedic plot line with a great ensemble cast: Jude Law, Jason Schwartzman, Mark Wahlberg, Dustin Hoffman, Lily Tomlin. It's a great movie. So we'll be showing that over in Wichita Hall 115. Come join us in The Witch. Must be the season of the witch.
And that's it, folks.
Okay, we gotta say my tagline. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Now last time, and by the way, I love the editing that Jack did on that before. That was awesome. I appreciated that like crazy. Okay, so we're actually gonna. Taya, do you want to do it?
I'm gonna count.
Yeah. How about you're the one that does it this time?
Okay.
Just you.
Just think about
Oh wow.
So I will say 1, 2, 3, and then you could say the line.
it. Okay, think about it. That's the line.
That's the line. That's the line.
Okay.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna say it. 1, 2. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Views expressed on the show are my own unless otherwise stated.
I knew it!
And do not reflect the opinion of
That
K-Pop
Mulan was
Radio,
a troublemaker!
Richland College, or the DCCCD. All right. Don't forget to think about it. Let me hear it, Haya.
Think about it!